We present you with Plasticator, the ideal solution for working on any porous material. One application leaves the ideal surface for painting and weathering. We offer two options, Plasticator Thin and Plasticator Thick, each well suited to specific applications. In this example, the product was applied to the middle of the piece only. Tape was used to mask one area. Once the tape is removed, you can clearly see how the area treated with Plasticator has a uniform surface without loss of surface detail. Once painted, you can see the difference more clearly. The drying time for Plasticator is 24 hours. For this example, Plasticator Thick was used. The product was simply placed on the wall. A large, flat brush was then used to cover the entire surface. You must be sure that the product reaches all the nooks and recessed areas. Once the product was dry, the piece was primed to check for imperfections and leave the surface ready to be painted. For the next example, Plasticator Thin of less density than the previous version was used. Because it is more fluid, it will not completely obscure the wood grain. The product was applied with a round-tipped brush. Much like Plasticator Thick, this version also dries in 24 hours. The surface can then be primed and painted as usual. The oil brusher colors work perfectly for highlighting the wood grain. Using a synthetic saw brush and a small amount of enamel odorless thinner, the color was then distributed over the entire piece. Plasticator Thin works perfectly with paper as well. Apply it directly onto the paper, generously covering both sides. While the product is wet, the paper can be shaped and adapted to any surface. The Plasticator will also prevent the paper from absorbing the wide range of paints used for weathering. In this last example, you will be shown the complete process and the results you can obtain on your vignettes when working with Plasticator. The entire surface was covered with a generous amount and allowed to dry for 24 hours. The roadway was then airbrushed with one-shot sand flesh, and the sidewalk painted with one-shot gray. After illuminating select areas with Dio Dry Brush Light Gray, the surface was again dry brushed using Dio Dry Brush Basalt Gray. The cobblestones were painted randomly in a range of natural stone colors. Again, the Dio Dry Brush color Light Gray was used to highlight the details. Because the surface was prepared with Plasticator, enamel washes can be applied without the foam absorbing the product, which means that any excess wash can be removed effortlessly in just a few minutes. Plasticator creates a resistant surface, allowing you to work with oil brushers on absorbent materials as if they were plastic. Pigments serve to simulate dust and dirt. Apply them over the entire surface and fix them in place with enamel odorless thinner. Once dry, the excess pigment was simply removed with a sponge.